Okay.
Got it.
Thank you for reminding me. It used to come on automatically, but now it doesn't. I don't know why.
All right. Well, it's 7:38, so I will call the meeting to order. First order of business will be a motion to approve the minutes from June 26th meeting.
I make a motion to approve them.
Okay. I'll second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Very good. Motion's passed. Thank you, Suzanne.
Mm-hmm.
So we have, for guests tonight, we have Bill Petrovich, Roger Dure, and Al Wheeler. Thank you guys for attending, as always. Do you guys have anything specific you'd like to bring up tonight? Or just attending? Just attending. Great. Very good. So we can move on to emergency management. I sent everyone the emergency management notification that we got. Report of heavy repetitive spraying of pesticides in the area for two and a half years. Today, there is a super strong odor of chemicals from the residents and the county, both spraying pesticides in large areas. Various tree growth and vegetation is dying. Caller concerned about well water and soil being contaminated, requesting a response and testing to surrounding area. This was at 2050 North Bluebell Road. This complaint was received on June 30th. It was an anonymous complaint. So there's, I looked at this address on Google Maps and I didn't see any like farm fields that even abut to this property. So it looks like it's somewhat removed where they would be doing any kind of spraying. I don't know what kind of spraying the county would be doing. I don't know if the county even sprays pesticides. Maybe some kind of mosquito.
What's the resolution? You know, it was just this report.
That's really all.
There's no solution.
The report. There really is none. We didn't get any kind of follow-up, and we rarely ever do. But I live right next to a farm field, and every time they spray any kind of chemicals, I can smell it. And, you know, if the wind's blowing in the wrong direction, I got to close my windows because it'll permeate through my house. So I think that's just normal standard procedure when they spray, is that it has an odor to it.
It's the right to farm, period. There's nothing you can do.
Mm-hmm. So this is not an actionable item on our part. It's just an informative notification.
Doesn't the county spray for mosquitoes still?
Yeah. So the bill is saying that they do spray for mosquitoes.
Yeah, they post notices in the newspaper about it. It seems like, well, this would be about the time of year one would think that they might do that.
Yeah.
Or actually, I would have thought it would have been a little earlier. So I'm wondering whether that's the cause of this, because that area is fairly wet, right?
I believe so.
So I'm wondering if that might be what it's about.
Yeah, could be. When I first moved into my house and had experienced the heavy odors from the pesticides, I was kind of concerned also, and looked into it and learned that it's just the common practice. So I've since gotten used to it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. Well, we'll leave it at that. There's really not anything we can discuss further about that. So we'll move on to the zoning and planning board applications. 2 zoning board applications. We'll start with ZB 2305. The applicant is JWJ Investors. This is block 2102, lot 22, located at 3086 Delsey Drive. There's a proposed pole barn. They are seeking a C variance for excessive.
Hey Siri,
impervious cover. So this
Hey Siri.
application, Al, you're not muted, just so you know. We're hearing you call Siri. This application is a little complicated because the lot is on an HC zone and the RA zone. So I will read part of the application here that describes the project. They desire to expand an existing concrete pad onto which will be placed a 4,375 square foot pole barn for the use of existing commercial landscape business for indoor storage. All building construction will occur on the HC portion of the project. Reducing stoned area as compensation for increased impervious. Now, a stoned area is, as far as I understand it, already considered impervious. So I don't understand how reducing a stoned area could compensate for increased impervious cover. Or I'm sorry, it's pervious. Stone area is pervious. The water.
Roger, that's what I was thinking. But Roger said it gets compacted, and
Okay.
it becomes impervious after years. So I don't know. I couldn't figure out how that could balance out.
That was from Joe Arsenal. He mentioned that years ago.
Okay, yeah, I mean, it makes sense because as it gets driven over and compacted and crushed and, dust is made and fills in all the little cracks.
Yeah.
But whenever there's an application to planning or zoning and there's concerns about impervious cover, we require them to, or recommend that they use stone so that there's less impervious cover. So maybe that's a faulty practice to use stone as impervious cover if eventually it becomes pervious.
I don't know. That's what we were saying to use it at Malaga Park, right?
Mm-hmm.
We were saying to use the stone because it would be pervious.
Right.
Oh well.
So
It's news to me.
a little more information about this application. A zoning permit was denied based on RA zoning requirements. However, the proposed concrete pad and pole barn are located on the HC zone portion of the property. So because this property spans two different zones, they were held to the more restrictive requirement of the RA zone. But the proposed pole barn, and it shows on the print that we have here, is entirely within the highway commercial zone, which it would be allowed. It wouldn't need a variance being located in the HC zone.
But they're making them go for a variance.
Correct.
They did not grant it. So,
Correct.
there's something a little bit fishy, don't you think?
You say they don't need it.
Well, I honestly, I don't know. I don't know if they might, if when a lot spans two different zones, they may enforce the regulations for the more restrictive zone. I don't know. That's what I would guess.
What roads?
This is Delsey and Grant. Well, I mean, as far as environmental impacts here, they are increasing there's an existing concrete pad, and they are increasing that pad. Just by guessing, looking at it, I would say maybe increasing it by like 20%. So there will be 20% more impervious cover, but the vast majority of where this proposed pole barn is, there's already a concrete pad there. So the square footage increase in impervious cover seems to be minimal.
There an existing garage there?
That I don't know. It doesn't say. It just says existing concrete pad here. So the dashed line is the existing pad. And then this thin section here and up here is where they will be extending the concrete pad to.
Is that they were using that for storage?
I believe, well, honestly, I don't know. The only information I have is what's on the print there, which shows an existing concrete pad.
Why would you need a pad if you're storing something?
Yeah, probably is, used for something, whether it's storage or parking or. So in the application here, it says the variance is needed. Variance is possibly needed for exceeding impervious coverage allowance. Maximum allowed impervious allowed is 50%. So this would increase the maximum impervious cover to 51.5%. So it's only an increase of 1.5% over the allowed amount.
And is that the allowed for RA?
That I don't know. I think that might be different in RA.
What's the name of this company? What are they doing again? Landscaping?
Yeah.
What type of landscaping?
That information I don't know.
But the pole barn is for their storage of their equipment.
Right.
Yeah. Which corner is this on? It's at Grant and Delsey?
It's,
Don't you think it's Doherty's?
it's
Suzanne?
Doherty's, where Doherty's nursery was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Delsey and Grant.
I'm sure all of that, even all the dirt and all the parking lots are all impervious from compaction.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
we had trucks and vehicles in
For
there
years.
years. Yeah.
And Suzanne, you can note that Kevin Kelton is present. He arrived at 7:45.
Okay.
So I believe we would be considering the environmental impact of the 1.5% increase in impervious cover. I think that's the only thing that could really have an environmental impact. It seems that I can't imagine any exterior lighting intruding on any of the surrounding properties because it seems to be they would have a large buffer because it's kind of in the middle of the property.
They don't mention lighting, do they?
No, there's really no
It's
specific.
bare bones, don't you think? What they've
Yeah.
included, the information?
There is no plan for the structure itself.
No.
It's only for a variance. So maybe they have to be granted a variance before they are required to provide details of the structure.
Usually they put it all in one.
Mm-hmm. So as far as what we are concerned with of environmental impact, I can't really come up with any concerns.
Did they mention what storage? Like, are they storing any possible hazards, in large quantities, gasoline, oil, degreasing?
They don't say.
Now,
They don't
just
say anything.
says for the use of the commercial landscaping business for indoor storage. So we could ask what is stored, what's going to be stored in there.
That would be an appropriate question.
I agree. All right, so our concern is of the possibility of hazardous materials being stored inside the pole barn and making sure that any necessary precautions be taken.
Or it could be stored on the pad, the proposed pad. They're not really giving a lot of information. It could be outside storage as well.
I can't help but make a comment that we need a building inspector. I mean, who knows what's going to happen with this? It's so nebulous.
Any of them.
There's no description.
Yeah,
No.
Who knows about the lighting? Who knows about the runoff from the roof? Who knows?
Although Although it's not going to be very different from what Doherty has had there. I mean, Doherty's had the same kind of things in the landscaping business would have, one would think. I know
Yes.
they had fertilizer and they had
Yes.
Right.
herbicides, bags of herbicides and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, so that stuff could be stored on site already.
yeah.
Um,
But it would be nice if these people would upgrade their applications, give us a little more info. But
should we make a note about lack of building plans? We can't really make a full evaluation based on the lack of.
Like, a question mark, lighting, just a question mark. Just curious. Although I guess it's in the center of their acreage, isn't it?
For the most part, I mean, it is along one side. I guess it is kind of close to one of the boundaries here.
The rear,
Yeah. I guess this would be the rear of the building.
and the rear doesn't back up to a street, right?
No, correct.
No,
And it's not stated what's in the rear on the property line, the other
side
rear of the property line.
Right.
Is it residential? Is it housing?
And it's only 23 feet from the property line.
Mm.
I guess in the HC zone, I don't know if this would be backyard or side yard setback, but it must be, within the allowed distance.
Maybe that's part of the variance they're seeking, setback relief for the expansion.
Yeah, that would typically be on the application. Now, this which one is this? This is being heard by the zoning board at the next zoning board meeting. Well, I will look into side and backyard setbacks, and if it's within, or if it violates the side or backyard setback, then I will make a note of that on our comment sheet. But I imagine if it did violate the setback, then that would be on the application because they would have to specifically go for a variance for that.
I think we should mention lighting anyway. So what if it's in the, so what if there are no neighbors? We shouldn't have excess lighting anyway anymore, right?
I agree.
It's upsetting. It upsets all of nature.
Mm-hmm. And that 23 feet, most of that is a earth and stone driveway. So it's basically like a vehicle right of way here. That's the buffer. So there is no buffer to the neighboring property. No vegetative buffer.
What you're saying is the stone driveway in the rear is owned by these people that are
Correct.
seeking the variance?
Yes.
And it's existing?
Yes. This building will be accessed via this
Driveway.
stone driveway.
So they're not going to come from the front?
They can. There's access from both directions, from the front and the back. So it shows on the plan here the 20-foot side yard setback line. So that's what the setback would be.
Okay.
Oh yeah, it says it right here down at the bottom. Minimum side yard setback is 20 feet, and this is 23 feet. So it is conforming.
So they're considering that a side yard?
No matter what it is, they consider it, the distance, even if it's all pavement. It's still the
No, as a
setback.
side yard.
Oh, right.
To
Yes.
front or rear.
So the frontage would be on Grant. No, the frontage would be on Del C.
Chelsea Darn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it is a Del C address.
Right.
Yeah, 3102 Del C Drive.
This essentially back here is their rear.
Correct. So our comments will be inquiring about what kind of materials will be stored inside of the pole barn, and we'll make a comment about the lighting because this building is only 23 feet from the property line, so there's a potential for intrusive lighting on the neighboring property.
And in any case, don't we have some standards in our development ordinance about lighting pointing downward anyway? I know we don't have an ordinance about lighting because that never went anywhere. But I thought there were some standards that the boards would try to enforce regarding lighting not being directed outward or upward.
Shielding.
But I may be wrong.
I think it's usually just our feeble request, Suzanne. I'm pretty sure that they can put spotlights up.
Yeah,
It is something that was often raised by planning board members. When I served on the planning board, that was often something that was question that was raised to the applicant about shielding, lighting. And even the engineers would ask the applicant if they didn't specify I forget what it's called, where the area that's illuminated, but they would often ask them to provide proof that the lights that they will use will not exceed a certain radius.
Oh,
but
So,
it may not.
know.
I don't know about the zoning board though, right?
Correct. I don't know about the zoning board.
Yeah. But I guess if the engineer was asking that, then there must be something in the code that allows that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I'm thinking I should have checked that. I've been meaning to, along with many other things.
If they get approval for this variance, they would have to come back with building plans. And then at that point, when you would make your comments for lighting, they're just seeking a C or D variance,
C.
which is what? What does C mean? D is use.
Right. So it's a permitted use. According to the application, it would only possibly be for the increase of impervious cover.
Okay. That's what C means.
I think so. Well, I'm not sure. I'm sure it covers a lot of things, and impervious cover would be one of those.
Okay.
Maybe exceeding the regulations, the standards.
That would be bulk standards then.
Yeah, so the question would be, will they have to come back again if the C variance is approved with building plans for the pole barn, and that would include a light design?
Mm-hmm.
No, they wouldn't. It's not an oversized barn, right? It's within the.
I believe it is conforming for the highway commercial zone.
Okay, so they wouldn't necessarily have to come back for another variance, but they would
Not
probably.
a variance, Suzanne.
No,
Building plans to be seen to be commented on by the board.
I think.
oh, by the planning board, by the planning boards.
Zoning board. This would not go back to planning.
No, it shouldn't. I mean, why wouldn't they look at it now? Okay.
I think they would only need to present to the zoning board if they required a waiver in their building standards. If something about the building didn't, was outside of the regulations.
Right, but you don't have the building plans to review.
Right.
So when it comes to lighting and where they're going to place their lighting, you really have no comments because you don't know, you haven't seen their building plans.
Right.
Right.
And
well, how about if we comment, when you get a lighting plan, make sure that it's downward facing or whatever?
Yeah, properly.
However you say that?
no
Shielded.
box
Shielded.
lights. The box lights they put on the side of the buildings that light up the whole neighborhood.
Mhm.
They're not shielded.
Right.
They're just general lights that are on all year round.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all night long. And there's no shielding on those. They're like a box. They put them on the firehouses and everything. So
Yeah.
you don't want that in your neighborhood.
Okay. Well, I think our two comments about what will be stored in the building and the lighting is all we can really go on for now.
Mhm.
So unless anybody has anything else to add, we will move on to the next application. This application is also for the planning board, ZB 2307.
I'm sorry. So,
Oh, yes. Did I say planning? I meant
Yes.
zoning. Yes.
So, yeah.
ZB 2307. It's located at 95 Malga Lake Boulevard. The applicant name is Bosco. It is block 4515, lot 12. It's also a proposed pole barn. They are seeking a C variance for setback intrusion on side yard setback. The description on the application reads as follow. Change of building requirements of 25 feet from side yard property line. Due to septic being in rear of property, the planned pole building will not be able to be built in compliance of 25 feet from side property line and 50 feet from rear property line. Planned pole building is unable to be built in compliance with setbacks. Building is to be used for storage and not for any commercial uses. Building permit application was denied due to the structure not meeting required setbacks and the structure not being located in the rear yard. So because the building will be in the side yard and because they will intrude on the setback, C variance is required. So this is a 960 square foot pole barn that they're proposing. And it is only 8 feet from the neighboring property.
Can we be assured that the neighbors know that this is in the plans?
Well, if it's going to the zoning board, they have to have the 200 feet
Notification.
for everyone within 200 feet of this lot. Everyone within 200 feet will be notified.
Okay.
Now, this also doesn't have any plans for the building. Doesn't show what the structure will look like, how high it'll be. All it has is the footprint, 24 feet by 40 feet.
And it's really tight.
Yeah, it's very tight. And this is a pretty small lot. It's 100 feet by 150 feet. The house on the lot is only 1,100 feet. And this pole barn is 960 feet. So it's almost as large as the house. It's really only 5 feet shorter than the house is. Or, 5 foot less in length.
Seems to me it's too large for the lot.
I agree. The house on the other side only has a 13 and a half or 13 and a quarter foot side yard setback. And then on this side of the property where the pole barn is going to be is only an 8 foot setback. It looks like they have a large driveway. I don't know if it's paved. So an increase, this looks like it'll be an increase of nearly 1,000 square feet of impervious cover.
That's a comment.
And lots of trees. It's all tree covered now.
Yeah.
And lots of trees coming down.
Looking at the satellite view, I noticed the same thing. It's currently occupied by a lot of trees. So we'll be cutting down trees and installing impervious cover.
I think it's a sorry choice for that homeowner. And I'd hate to be the neighbor.
Yeah.
If it's not a commercial use, I don't know why it has to be an oversized pole barn. Oh, it's not oversized. Is that right? It's just
I don't know.
If it's as big as the house, it sounds like it is, but I don't remember the dimensions of allowed permitted pole barns. Most of the applications we've had have been for oversized ones, but this
Right.
may not be.
Correct.
What would you consider oversized in Franklin Township? 1,200 or?
Well,
more?
there is an actual standard.
Yes,
Anything over a certain square footage requires a variance.
can't remember what it is though.
Well, this is a residential property. That's kind of large.
Seems very large, yes.
And what's the size of the lot? 100 by?
100 by 150.
That's less than a half an acre.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well under half an acre.
This guy obviously wants to run a business out of there. I mean, nobody needs 1,000 square feet for their 1,100 square foot house.
True. What are you going to store in there, you know?
Well, he wants to run some type of a commercial business. That's obvious without saying it.
Exactly.
Because you can say anything on an application to get it through. And it's much harder to shut down an operation once you get approval.
Mm-hmm.
well, he must have something going on there now.
In the RA zone, the maximum permitted size of a accessory building is 1,200 square feet.
Oh, okay.
Well, yeah, considering you have a large lot in Franklin Township.
This is a residential.
Right. Well, I mean, even if they were within the setbacks, it seems like the only thing they need a variance for is being within the setback or, encroaching on the setbacks. So they could build a 1,200 square foot barn if they were not encroaching on the setbacks. So that's the only thing that they need variance relief from is the setback intrusion. But considering that it's 8 feet, that's really egregious. It's not like they're just encroaching by 1 foot. They're really encroaching a lot. And this is a densely packed site. I mean, there's like no room for anything considering the septic takes up the vast majority of the backyard. And then you have the driveway, the 2-story dwelling, and then this proposed pole barn.
And the roof runoff of the impervious cover will migrate to the neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this, the grade on that, if it's flat, it's going to pond in between the two structures.
Mm-hmm.
And if he grades it away from his structure, it'll run off into the other guy's basement.
Right.
So this is not a good idea. The EC can make a recommendation for the zoning board not to approve this application. I don't know if you're allowed to make recommendations.
Well, no, we stay away from making recommendations. What we do is just try to inform them of the environmental issues. So we have to figure out a way to make our concerns into a comment here.
Well, you mentioned
The old increase in impervious surface, and then the possible consequences to the because of the proximity of the neighbor.
Yeah.
Because of flooding.
I think you summed it up very well there.
Mm-hmm.
Even property value.
Mm.
And potential stormwater.
I mean, he should plant some kind of a buffer zone, don't you think?
Well, if it's
Yeah.
left trees, he
But
can
with
just.
only 8 feet, I don't even know if they have any room for any kind of vegetative buffer.
That's right.
And if he makes it a commercial business, that person, the neighbor's life is going to be miserable,
Mm-hmm.
terrible, unless it's a relative.
Funny what that is.
Poor,
I mean, does that have a first name on it?
poor plan.
Darren Bosco. Here's the plan if you guys really want to take a look at it.
House. Yeah, I can see that. He's got that line of the house. Which should never be there. Should all the way in the back.
Does anybody know what business Darren Bosco is in?
No.
That's a good question.
Okay, so our comment will be about the concern of additional impervious cover on an already overdeveloped site will exacerbate stormwater issues, and trees being removed and replaced with impervious cover will further exacerbate stormwater issues. Potential stormwater issues.
And you should mention for the neighbor, because if the guy causes himself problems, that's, he caused it. But if he causes problems for his neighbor, that's grievous, right?
Absolutely. I think that we should also make a comment about lighting, because this pole barn's only going to be 8 feet from the property, and there's no way to contain your lighting
Yeah.
within 8 feet.
Really, everything that we have comments on, all the new buildings should have lighting comments by us.
Yeah.
I mean, the accessory structure, I guess that's what you would call it, is too big for the lot, period. Right? The lot is too small to accommodate the size of a structure that big.
Yeah. I mean, they should just build a smaller building to
Or
fit
move,
within.
or move.
Right. Move to a larger lot that can accommodate his needs.
Well, if he moved that back to the back part of his lot,
Well, he said the septic field is back there, so we
Yeah.
can't move it back there.
And that is on Malaga Lake as well.
Right. Yes.
that's part of the.
Malaga Lake Boulevard. That is the one on the opposite side. I think this is the opposite side of Oak, I believe. If it's
Oh, Malaga Park Drive is the other.
right. So this
Okay.
is between Oak and 55.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I know where it's at.
Oak and, oh, okay. Oh, it's wooded.
Yeah.
And also there's flooding issues out
No,
there.
isn't it to the east of Oak?
It could be. I thought I saw that it was to the west of Oak. I'm not 100% certain. No.
There's flooding.
Oh, the actual site, right?
Yeah.
It's just to the west of Oak.
Not right
Yeah.
there.
It's
So it
to
is
the
to the
west
west.
of Oak?
It's
Okay.
like maybe 3 houses down or something like that.
I remember
Yeah.
being there also.
That's-
Oak's right
And that's
there,
like-
right past the lake.
It's not.
It's not that close to the lake then,
No.
if it's on the other side. But that's also wooded.
Correct. Yeah.
Although that's where they took out the big trees, I think, of Jason's property.
You know what
Mhm.
kind of trucks?
the one that he sold to Fazio, Chris Fazio.
Pickup trucks or diesel trucks, dump trucks, or tractor trailer.
Okay. I feel like that's been thoroughly reviewed. Does anybody else have any more comments?
I'll be going on.
If not, we can move on to the next agenda item. So we will move on to old business. We'll start with the Piney Hollow Natural Area and Green Acres Grant update. Yeah.
John, you just mentioned 2 zoning board applications for the August 1st meeting, right?
Yes.
What about the JC company?
We reviewed that one last month or 2 months ago.
For the August 1st meeting?
Well, we reviewed the application. I mean, I don't think the application has changed since we last reviewed it.
Actually, it has, because there's a public notice in Franklin Township right here.
We may.
That's a different application than the one that you reviewed 2 months ago. And that's a major application.
It doesn't have the application number in this article. So the one that we reviewed, let's see if we did it. I don't know if it was last month or the month before.
This is the fiberglass factory.
Yeah, the pool place.
On Route 40
Mm-hmm.
in I don't know what area, but
Yeah, that should be shut down because it's not a repair shop.
it's a factory.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They're manufacturing fiberglass products.
So we reviewed JC
It looks like a junkyard.
LLC. I believe that was May.
Cruise.
We reviewed it in May. It was labeled as ZB2108.
Okay,
So,
correct. That was a different application. And they appealed, the zoning board denied the applicant. They appealed the application.
right. And they went to court.
They went, and it was heard, and the judge said, they didn't make an appeal to the zoning board. They made a direct appeal to the Superior Court.
Yes.
And the judge, which you have a copy of
Mm-hmm.
because you emailed it.
Right.
The judge said that for their new application to come back to the zoning board
Mm-hmm.
and to seek a variance to combine a residential home with an industrial use.
Right. There was 2 uses on the same site.
on the same site. And I personally, I mean, I'm not on the EC, but personally, they're going to need to hear from the EC on this application that's going to be heard on next week on August 1st.
So we did make a comment about that. We did it in May. So I don't know what has changed since May, if anything has changed since then.
Do you know what your comments were?
I don't have it with me, but I can
I
find
do.
a comment sheet.
We said proposed use presents potential air quality hazards. Applicant should provide testimony about methods that will be used to minimize and isolate air quality hazards. Another comment was proposed use will require storage of hazardous materials on site.
So,
Chemicals are hazardous, but they're used.
so the hazardous materials, air quality.
I have a copy of their air pollution permit here. Basically, what this does,
Allows them to pollute the air.
well, that, and they also have a hazardous waste permit that they obtained. However, they have no approvals from the township.
Right.
At this point. Township has given them no certificate of occupancy. They do not have a CO to operate their industrial operation right now.
So they're operating in violation.
In violation.
Right.
But it's been going on for years,
No,
by the violation.
has not been going on for years. It's only been
No?
going on for about a year.
About a year. Yeah.
A year?
But they're adjacent to a farm field and the farmer has complained, I believe, right? And they're kind of
There were two farmers
two farmers. That's right.
that showed up at the hearing
Right.
in November of 2021. That both farmers testified that the pollution that the factory is producing is unbearable when they're out in the fields.
And that, in fact, their workers had to stop working and leave the field at one point, right?
There,
You were overcome.
no, there. That may have been a comment. There was a medical emergency with their employees. I guess this was prior to the airport, the stack that they put up. I don't know if the township gave them a permit. I don't know if the township is required to inspect any stacks or not that they put up.
Where'd they get the permit to get the stack?
From the state.
NJDP.
They're going around the township. That's what they're doing.
Well, I don't think the township, that's within their purview. I don't think that's their jurisdiction.
No, I think it's strictly state. Remember the soil
Right.
burning place in
Right.
Vineland?
Well, you could also use our other site on Coles Mill Road as well. But what we want to try to do is prevent a potential future site environmental catastrophe.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to really, this is our chance. This is it. If the zoning board approves this current variance, D variance, which is a use variance, if they happen to approve it, it'll go back to the judge and then we've created a dinosaur here. No different than Mart, Kasai. That's what we're going to get here because they're currently storing hazardous drums on site without township approvals.
So
They're flammable and they're very explosive.
it's a bifurcated application, meaning they're seeking a D variance from the zoning board. And once they get their D variance, then they will have to come back and apply with a site plan to be approved.
Right.
So they're just going now for the use.
Correct.
So when we did our environmental review, we didn't include things that would be included on a site plan review. We only presented hazards that could arise from allowing that use. And the use presents air quality hazards, possible storage of hazardous materials. So, I mean, the next step that we could pursue is having an environmental commission member attend this meeting and basically just present our concerns in person.
I would, because it's these guys are short-term memory. I mean, they're not going to remember your comments from 3 months ago.
Well, they're written out and they have it with the application. So if they do a thorough job of reviewing the application, they'll read the comments.
Right, but you just want to remind them.
Yeah, it's certainly more impactful if we go there and state them in person.
Yeah, this is not a pole, simple pole barn or setback requirement or something. This is a danger to the community.
What date is the zoning board?
August 1st.
And do the neighbors that are in the residences nearby, were they fully aware? Did they come out to the previous meeting or?
Yes, there were people that did attend, but like you said, there were two farmers there. I have the minutes here from that meeting, and there was some testimony by residents of the public, Sam Gurrell, Pete Scapoletto.
They're farmers.
But I thought there were houses, residences nearby also.
I believe there are residents on the farms, residential dwellings on the nearby farm.
On Route 40, Suzanne.
He says Scapolato Farms was objecting to this place.
Yes.
How about that? They're mine. You know, I mean, that's what surrounds my house.
Grows a pretty big guy.
He said in his testimony that it abuts his property and we're 1,500 feet away, and the smell of the fiberglass manufacturing is terrible. That was the testimony. I guess in addition to the air quality hazards, there's the actual stuff that's stored outside on site. I mean, everybody that passes by knows how terrible. It's one of the worst looking sites in Franklin Township.
It's horrible. It's a junkyard.
Terrible. It looks completely disorganized. They have the giant frames all over the place, just seem haphazardly placed throughout the site. We already discussed this at length. I don't think we need a full-blown discussion again tonight on this, but I do think if an environmental commission member is available August 1st, I don't know if I can't commit to it, but if someone can go there and read our comments in person, and so we can present our objection to this in person, it could help. Now, I know the township is pretty much seems like they're against this and has been against this. So there does seem to be some opposition to this, allowing this place to operate at the higher level. But our voice, could be impactful also.
And I think neighbors packing the courtroom would be much more influential than the environmental commission comments. I mean, I'm not saying that we shouldn't make them, but I think that the complaints from the neighbors and their actual, if they would say about the odors and being overcome when out in the field, I can't imagine anything being approved if the commission would hear testimony like that.
Yeah, let's hope not. I mean, I agree that I think the testimony from the neighbors is most influential.
I have a question for Suzanne. Is she still there?
Mm-hmm.
What?
I have a kind of like a quasi-legal question in regards to this process for this applicant. The application was heard, I believe it was November 3rd of 2021 in front of the zoning board, and the application was denied 4-1. And then it was published. This decision was published in the local newspaper on, I believe it was December 7th of 2021. A zoning board regulations state give an applicant 45 days to appeal a decision. And does anybody know if that 45 days is correct?
I don't know. I'm unaware of that.
I thought I'd throw this out there. The applicant made his appeal on January 29th of 2022 outside of the 45 days required by statute. So, and it was still taken in by the judge. So should this have even proceeded on appeal?
Yeah, I can't answer that question. But one would think the zoning board attorney would be able to answer that and address that.
Okay. I'll see if I can get a hold of the attorney that represented the township to ask him that question before next week's hearing.
And
Yeah,
We don't have much time.
I mean, if you bring that up at the hearing and it's a violation, then it should be, canceled on the spot.
I agree. My question is, why did the judge even take the appeal if it was past the appeal deadline?
That's a good question.
yeah, that is a good question. And the other one about, as Margaret brought up, the more the neighbors come out, the better. But what I was wondering was if there are residences besides the ones on the farms that are in the vicinity. And if those people were aware, if they came, did they come to the previous hearing or not?
It's beginning to sound like it's a notification thing, like an old mailbox thing. What do you think, Evan?
Yeah.
I think you're
Stuffing
right.
mailboxes.
I think you're right
Mhm.
about that. 200 feet is where they're located, would only notify.
One
A hand-
property on each side, basically.
Yeah, John's right.
Yeah.
One property on each side and maybe one property across the street,
Right.
and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Or, air quality that can go for miles. I mean, you remember the whole Mart issue in Franklin Township, and Mart was in the Vineland Industrial Park, which was a couple miles away, and it affected Franklin Township. This is in Franklin Township, and it would affect the people on Bluebell Road and what's the other road across the street? That
Catawba?
road, Catawba. It goes all the way up into Newfield from Bluebell, and then cuts up, and then across Main Road. There's a street back there. There's residents there. So.
Well, do we need
Well, if anyone's available on August 1st, I'll look into my availability, and if I can, I will attend. But even if there's multiple environmental commission members that could speak out against this, it'll be helpful. Thank you for bringing that up, Kevin.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry, I'm not going to be here, or I'd go to also.
August
Okay.
1st.
So now we will move on to the next agenda item, old business, Piney Hollow Natural Area. The Green Acres grant was approved by the Pinelands Commission. It was unanimously approved. I watched the meeting, a recording of the meeting. And some of the commission members had questions, and it seemed that they didn't really quite understand what we were trying to achieve with this application. They approved it anyway, but it was disappointing that they didn't have full comprehension. One member thought that we were just adding a new trail, and they didn't see the point of adding an additional trail when there's already a trail there. They didn't know we were moving the trail out of the wet area. And another member thought it had to do something with the width of the trails within the entire preserve, and they thought we were applying for something that had to do with the 6-foot width of trail throughout the entire preserve. So they felt that those questions weren't enough to deny our application, luckily, but it's disappointing that they weren't properly informed. But nonetheless, it's been approved. And I believe the next step from here is that the township will be putting this project out for bid for contractors to bid.
Oh my gosh. Maybe I'll live, huh? Maybe I'll live to see it.
Now, I haven't gotten any kind of documentation. This is just what I gleaned from watching the Pinelands Commission
Okay.
video. So we're still waiting on any official documentation. But the meeting was just 10 days ago. So that's good news.
So who makes sure that the township is putting out feelers for bids?
We keep
Well,
asking.
we're required to by law. So we will we can go through our liaison, Jonathan Keene. He seems like he's pretty up to date on this stuff, and he's motivated enough to make sure that this progresses. He informed us that he wasn't going to be here tonight. I believe he's out of town.
Mhm.
But he is invested in this, and I think he will kind of be our liaison for this project. So I can email him and inquire about the next step and ask him to keep us informed. Barbara, have you been received any information about this update?
I did get an update through the Green Acres guy that it was approved at the Pinelands, like you said, and that the next step is that the township has to write up the bid packet plans and get them to the representatives at Green Acres, and they have to approve it first.
Okay.
Yeah, then they can send it out, post it as a resolution to send it out for bids or however they handle it. I think it's a resolution.
So the engineers have to get onto this, Barb?
Yeah, the engineer should be working on this now.
Okay.
He's aware that it's approved because he received notification from the Green Acres guy, and the Green Acres guy, told him, what the next step is.
All right.
Okay.
Do you know if this is something that that will be voted on by the Pinelands Commission, the bid packet? Does that have to be?
No, that's Green. It's Green Acres.
Oh,
they
Green
just review it for compliance
Okay, good.
and approve the construction plans, which is what they are. Once they approve the construction plans, then the town can take the next step of putting a resolution to get it bid on.
Okay, well, hopefully that'll be more of an expedited process to be approved by Green Acres than it was by Pinelands Commission.
It will be much faster.
And I asked, in the bid package, so the construction plans, what will that entail? What will that include for the township as far as what's in the construction package?
Like what does the grant, like what are the plans for the site?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's been changing. So originally it was a boardwalk. We reduced the amount of boardwalk and moved the trail. So it'll be making a new trail. There's like some interpretive signage. I believe some improvements to the parking area, blocking vehicle access, gates that'll block vehicle access because there's been a lot of trespassing from motor vehicles.
Like four-wheelers?
Four-wheelers, yeah, mostly four-wheelers and stuff like that. But also, just trucks and stuff driving back there.
Yeah.
Off-road vehicles. I don't know. What else is part of the grant that I didn't mention?
Okay, well, there will be a section of boardwalk about 100 feet long. There'll also be benches throughout the park. There'll be a kiosk near the beginning of the trail in the parking area. And they're going to include the cleanup as part of the bid packet. One of the things you have to make sure of during this whole grant process is that they cut off access in some way to that farmer driving right onto the land and continuing to dump.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to have to make the engineer aware of that, since you're the only one that's allowed to email him directly.
Well, I think any environmental commission can contact the engineer to extend our concerns. But I mean, I can do it. I mean, that might be something that we can collectively make comments and just send as the environmental commission and opposed to me personally.
Yeah, I mean, Jim Winkowski was well aware of it, and we had talked about it several times, but Ed may not be aware of it, the current engineer. And, they talked about fencing, just maybe even planting would help as well, because a big destroyed open area, you've seen it, right?
Yep. Yes, I have.
What kind of
after the cleanup, something has to be done.
What kind of dumping is the farmer who abuts the property dumping?
There was a whole mountain of trash. I mean, not a mountain, but a large pile of old farming equipment and barrels and household trash. And it looked like it was bulldozed onto the property, bulldozed onto Piney Hollow property from the farm. And it has since been, they removed some of it. It looks like they bulldozed some of it back onto the farm property, but there's still some trash that remains, some, old equipment or parts of old equipment. But I think the concern that Barb is bringing up, that we have to prevent them from being able to do that in the future.
Right. Well, before the construction occurs with the grant money, can they make the farmer clean up the property or that he littered on?
I don't know, because part of the grant is that some of the money is going to go to cleaning that up. So I don't know if we can make the farmer clean it up, or at least all of it. They cleaned up some of it, but I don't think we can rely on them to clean up the rest of it.
Are they going to test for like any potential hazards that may have been dumped there?
I don't think that's part of the plan now. I don't think so. So as far as the bid packet that has to be approved by Green Acres, I think that the Environmental Commission should request to see that bid packet that the engineers come up with before it is presented to Green Acres, and make sure that we at least get to look at it before it's presented to them, to make sure that we have everything in it that, we want.
Yeah.
So how are we going to request that? Are we going to, and who is going to request it?
Well, I can email. Is it an engineer that's putting the bid packet together?
It's either the engineer himself or the environmental specialist that works with him. But I would say if you're going to reach out to Ed, the engineer.
What's his last name?
It starts with a D, but I'd have to look for an email to answer that. Hang on.
I do have his email contact, so I can write an email and include Jonathan Keene, our township liaison, and include him in it, and email the engineer and state our request that we can see the packet that is being presented to Green Acres, and I'll share that with everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Crap, I just lost my Zoom.
In the construction, John, that includes cutting of trails, right? New trails.
There's one new trail. The trail has been mapped out. Joe Arsenal and Monica kind of mapped. I think. Oh wait, no, they didn't map it. They mapped the wetlands.
Mm-hmm.
So I know when we were discussing this, we wanted to kind of make the trail be least impactful as possible, kind of finding the route of less obstruction, so that it would minimize. And considering it's only going to be 6 feet wide, it shouldn't have too much impact. But there will be vegetation cut. But
It has to be,
yeah,
to make a quality trail. I find wider trails to be better, because if you allow a trail to go uncut or unmaintained for a certain period of time, you brush up against, vegetation, ticks, get all over you. And if you have a wider trail, even if you let it go on the sides, you won't get ticks or potential ear ticks or other insects that breed on those weeds.
right. Well, the Pinelands Commission approval was for a 6 foot wide trail. So at this point, to make it wider than that, we'd have to go back to Pinelands. And it'll take some volunteer effort really to keep the trails maintained. I don't think we can count on the township to do that. And I usually go out there once a year and do trail maintenance. So maybe we can start having that as an annual event, Piney Hollow Maintenance Day, and invite volunteers from the community.
Would part of the maintenance include cutting the grass?
Well, there's really not any lawn there or any grass to cut. There are patches of some grass along the trails, but to get a lawnmower in there would kind of, I don't know, be so much work. It's easier just to leave the little patches long.
And 6 feet is fairly wide for a trail. And that should be adequate.
Yeah. Agreed. And having it restricted to 6 feet will kind of cut back on the ability of any vehicles that do get in there, at least larger ones.
Yeah,
You
at
know,
least
stop quads and motorcycles, but at least off-road trucks and stuff.
The Environmental Commission is supposed to do maintenance after the grant. That's part of the grant. It talks about things that we're supposed to be doing as a group. So you might want to read some of that section of the grant itself.
Okay, good. I actually think that's a great idea because it'll get the community involved and get the community invested.
Mm-hmm. They won't be able to get any of the grant money until the cleanup is done. Even if they finish the park, if they fail to do the cleanup, they won't release any money.
Well, that's good motivation for them to get out there and clean it up.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. Okay, so I will email the engineer and ask him to see the bid packet before it is sent to Green Acres. Just to confirm that it is what we have in mind.
And John, do you have a copy of the original grant application?
I probably have one like in the depths of my email, but I don't have one easily accessible. So if you could forward that to me, I would appreciate it.
Okay.
You can just go on my site. You can read it. There's a link to my copy of it.
Okay.
Oh.
Go to the links page.
Is that Green Franklin? What is the?
Yeah, I believe it's Green Franklin Township spelled out. .wordpress.org, I think.
Okay, I'll be able to find it just with the Green Franklin Township.
Or it might be COM. Let me just check. I got a card. Business card with it.
Other than that, I haven't been to Piney Hollow since our last meeting, so I don't have any firsthand reporting from the site.
You have had fewer ticks
Yeah,
in your life.
yes, definitely.
Oh, my only time out there, Suzanne, I had deer ticks from top to bottom.
God.
I must have pulled 50 of them all me. And they were just tiny specks.
Yeah,
I've never had deer ticks on me before until I went to Piney Hollow.
that site has more bugs than any place I've ever been. Mosquitoes and ticks and tigers and, I mean, it's a natural area. Kind of a haven.
It's
for
too
them.
natural.
Yeah.
Well, must have a lot of deer, perhaps, you know.
Mm-hmm. It's .com, not .org.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. I think we can move on to the next order of business, which is Malga Lake Park. I saw in an email chain that someone in the township has applied for a grant for Malga Lake Park to fix it up. I don't know any details. I don't know how much the grant it applied for is. I don't know what the plans would be. But I know that there is a grant that has been applied for.
Wow.
And
I mean, we
Barbara,
didn't do it. We didn't ask them to do it. They're doing it all on their own.
Yeah.
well, I don't know. There's a lot of community members lately that have been raising the issue about the playground because the playground
Yeah.
is in complete
Stinks.
disarray. There's part
Yeah.
like the sliding board is completely like broken in half.
Yeah.
There's been caution tape wrapped around the playground equipment for several months. So I know members of the community have been voicing their concern about that. Barbara, I believe you were in that email chain. Do you know who it was that applied for the grant?
The administrator said that he applied for a grant through the county, and it basically sounded like it was to fix the playground. I don't know that it goes any further.
Maybe they'll plant a couple trees.
Doubtful. But they do have, I mean, the administrator and Jonathan Keene, but have the concept plan that
Yeah.
we saw, which by the way, there's a PowerPoint because we did do a presentation on this. It's a very short one. It has only like 5 slides, and the last thing is the plan itself. So you can see that there very well.
Well, if they are interested in pursuing the Green Acres grant, John's going to have to impress upon them certain problems with the site that Ed probably is unaware of. You know, like you can't really put pavement down for the walking trail because the ground is so saturated when it rains that the pavement will just crumble. It's not a base that can handle something rigid. And also the parking lot flooding, they need to know that there's that drain that runs from above the parking, closer to the road and runs right by. You've seen it, John, right?
Yeah.
That leads to the lake. So they'll have to figure out some complying stormwater way to get the parking lot to drain towards that, I guess.
Yeah, that drain and that water killed at least one, maybe more of the trees that were planted there.
And they were water tolerant red maples, so
Yeah.
it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to plant weeping willows.
We need cypress trees, the kind you find in a swamp.
That's about right. They need to fix the drainage problem somehow or other.
Yeah, I mean, whatever they do, whether they recognize it or not, they're going to need some help from the Environmental Commission to help them recognize the environmental issues at that park that are going to have to be addressed. You can't just look at it the way Lou and Ed did when they drew up a plan for the park. It was totally ignoring the environmental site restrictions.
When did they draw up a plan?
Well, Lou and Ed drew up a plan. They had CME draw up a plan. I forgot how much money they spent. I think they spent $25,000 on a plan that regraded and, did all kinds of things that would be a problem getting permits for it. And it was nothing was ever done with it.
Okay, I don't remember seeing that.
I did.
Yeah, I just don't remember it.
It had no input from the public. It was basically just something they invented that really wasn't functional.
Right.
That site. If it was a different site, maybe that would have been a usable plan, but it wasn't for this site.
I will email the administrator to inquire about more information about the grant that is applied for and let him know that we have some pertinent information that'll be necessary to progress with any kind of further development of the park.
There's no scrutiny over us not having yet fixed up Piney Hollow, like cleared all the trash, like doing our part of the bargain to get that into a park, to get Green Acres to approve.
They asked to roll it into the bid process, and that was okayed by the Green Acres people. So
Okay.
that's the way it's going.
All right.
And another note on Malaga Lake Park, just like to inform everybody that this Saturday night there's an event there, Moth Night. Like we've discussed previously, we'll be using UV lights to try to attract as many nocturnal insects as possible. A friend from the Gloucester County Nature Club, Jeff Mollenhauer, is going to assist me in hosting this. event, we're going to probably have 5 mothing stations set up throughout the nature trail. So I encourage all of you to attend if you can. It's a really neat, unique opportunity to see some insects that you would never see otherwise. So if anything's free, it begins at 8 p.m.
You're starting at 8. Okay.
Yep. So I'm going to print out some flyers either today or tomorrow or Wednesday and post them at the park. I already made a Facebook event and have shared it on multiple Facebook accounts or pages to inform the public. So I hope to see some of you there. It's really fun. The event starts at 8. I'll do a presentation, just some brief description about like different kinds of moths and things that we could expect to see. But the nocturnal insects don't really start showing up until 9 o'clock. So that's what we can expect.
Tell me, how do you prepare for it, John? But do you put bug spray on?
Yeah, bug spray helps. Something that I've often noticed when I do these events is that the bugs will kind of get at you while I'm setting up. And then once it gets dark out, the mosquitoes don't really bother me. It's usually as the sun's going down, but once it gets dark, it really hasn't been too bad for the most part. But I would definitely recommend at least bringing bug spray. I always wear long pants and long sleeve shirt just because the lights that we set up, there's always a lot of bugs flying around and they'll fly up your pant leg or in your shirt sleeves. So unless you want to bring some bugs home with you in your clothes, I would suggest long pants and long sleeves.
I don't know if this is going to be one of those sweltering nights.
It might be. I hope not. I know on Friday it's supposed to be like 97 degrees. So,
yeah.
I mean, it's actually better for the bugs, or we get more bugs. Usually the hotter and the more muggy it is, the more the bugs like it. So even if it's uncomfortable for us, it might be more productive for seeing some insects.
Just pray for really hot, muggy, humid weather.
Yeah, well, we'll want a little bit of, a little bit of both.
In the jungle.
We had about 20 people attend last year, so hopefully we have a similar turnout this year. So it was a lot of fun.
So just pull into the parking lot and
you'll see it. Yeah, I set up a table and also a large sheet and have the lights shining on the sheet right in the parking area. So just driving down the road, you'll see it. It'll be a big UV lit sheet, and yeah, it's right by the boat launch parking lot, right at the trailhead.
And you also will be putting spots in this forest.
Yep.
Oh,
and there will be some live specimens. I'll bring some live moths and include that in my presentation. It's a good way to get people interested. And
yes.
The moths are usually pretty tame at that point. So I, can kind of put them on a little dowel stick and the moth will stay there and we can pass that around to people and it really gets people interested, especially the kids.
Huh. Are these moths that you have at home or what?
I collect them the night before and put them in a butterfly habitat until the next day.
And they actually calm down enough to stay on the stick. Huh?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Then we could have them as pets.
Yeah.
Short-lived pets, but pets. I did talk to Public Works about the signs, and it turns out that I've been waiting to hear from them. Well, kind of, yeah. And she actually did email me back when I last, after we last talked. I had sent her the wording, and she was going to get me information on the material and from the sign maker. So she sent that to me. They're just metal signs. And I basically said black letters on white. They're 12 by 11, I think it is. I'd have to look at the email. And that's the cheapest version because I was looking for something that was a little bit more rectangular. But I said, just fine, go with that cheaper version, get us both signs. And it did not include a sign about keeping your dog on a leash. We could go back and get that later. But this is just the one with the, what do you call the little square?
The QR code.
QR code, thank you. Has
Oh.
a QR code, explains about that, and then just a sign that says the name of the woodland. If the woodland trail is at the boat launch, that you will put down in the main parking lot. So,
Great.
So they're ordered, so to speak.
Good.
We'll see how soon that comes. That means we have to go in there and fix up the number plates. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
John,
Oh, I inquired about our budget,
Oh, did you?
or your
And
budget.
you
It's
get
not
a
my
response?
budget. Okay, you get a whopping $550 this year.
Wow, what happened?
I made a comment that, well, how are they gonna get a secretary on that? You know, is the budget flexible? And the answer I got was the administrator is trying to get one of the girls that works there to be our secretary. And it sounded like if we had found our own secretary, they would adjust it. And they may adjust it, but that's what we were allotted.
I wonder if that goes towards the Anject dues. The Anject dues would eat up most of that budget.
That's right.
Well, you know, I think you're going to have to bring this up to Jonathan.
what was your
Because the
question?
injectors were what were they, John? 300 something?
I believe so. 375
That's
Mhm.
right.
Anject dues.
Oh,
I mean, the secretary's budget was $1,000, right?
mhm.
Yeah. Exactly.
Previously. And then we had more money besides that, right?
Yes.
Right.
So something terrible has happened.
It was a couple $1,000, but they haven't had to pay a secretary in a while, so they think they're getting
It used
it
to
was
be,
3,000, was it?
it was 2,500 at one point.
Yeah.
It was
went up-
3,000 at one point. Dave Deegan got 3,000 for me.
So it went from 3,000 to 550.
Yeah, because there's no secretary to pay. They'll have to take it back up. And also,
Secretary was only
we never spent all of it. Usually we would try to spend some of it at the end of the year to improve our community day display. But now we basically, I mean, I don't know if they're going to charge these signs to our account. Well, that's their problem as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it is. And one year we used the leftover $500 to get the stewardship report, which came in handy in the end.
Well, that budget money can be used to replace the posts along the nature trail.
Right. Exactly.
I wouldn't offer anything. I would make them come after you for the money. Let them pay for everything that they said that they would do. Just stay quiet. Let them pay for the post and the signage.
Well,
we
these are we're talking about two separate things. The posts that need to be replaced are along the nature trail. There's the trail brochure that has numbers on the brochure, and the posts that have the numbers spread along the nature trail. Yeah, the trail. Yeah, they've been, broken over the years. There's 4x4 wooden posts with a number on it. And then that corresponding number, you look on the trail brochure and it'll give you an interesting fact, or it'll label a tree or something along
This
the
would all
lines.
come under the open space and recreation fund, which they have, thousands of dollars sitting in? And isn't Malaga Lake Park open space?
Yeah, true. It could be part of the maintenance budget. But then, of course, Public Works uses up a lot of that too, I'm sure. Or
Yeah,
could.
Piggyback with Public Works. Become
That's
their-
right.
And then they could submit these bills. So
That's right.
So EC doesn't have to worry about where their next dollar is coming from. 'Cause you're
I'm not worried about it anyway. I'm going to just charge whatever I want to charge. I mean, like for the signs. And I'm going to ask them to put them up.
You're doing the township a favor.
As we all are, as a matter of fact. But
All right. Well, our last business item on the agenda for the night is Community Day. Community Day this year is September 23rd. It starts at noon. I believe we discussed this last meeting, and we're going to cover a lot of the things that we covered in the past for Community Day. The topics will include the importance of native plants, encouraging residents to convert lawn to wildflowers, protecting the night sky. We have all of the hands-on exhibits. I'm going to continue the thing we've done the last couple of years of collecting aquatic creatures from Malaga Lake the morning of. I'll also hopefully have some live moths and butterflies to show. And that's kind of where we are for Community Day. We will need some involvement from Environmental Commission members and even non-members that would like to help us man the site that day. So obviously I'm on board to be present the entire day. Can anyone else commit to being at our booth for the day?
I should be able to be in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Evan, did you just say you would do it? And I will be there.
Okay, great.
Anybody else? We should go back to our larger audience. They're not all here tonight.
Yeah.
But do we want to do a different exhibit about or do we want to just put up what we put up last year about native plants and then also all of the lighting information?
Oh, yeah, that was another thing, the lighting. Protecting the night sky. I think we should just combine all the stuff that we've used for like the last 3 or 4 years, really, and just kind of have a hybrid topic of covering all of those things.
I did like the idea that we talked about at the last meeting about basically giving it a theme, rural character. And we don't have to use that term, but then have these different sections like night sky, native plants, insect populations, whatever else we want to have.
Because I guess all of those things are part of a larger theme of, rural character.
How about a tick display?
Well,
I mean,
I think there is a bit of a tick display.
no, it's Joe Arsenal's. We could probably borrow it, but
so people that are in contact with ticks, they know the names of different types of ticks.
Yeah, we can ask
identify.
Joe. Ask Joe if we can use the exhibit that he has.
oh, that was too bad we couldn't get Joe because he explains to people tremendously.
Yeah. Well, we can always ask him if he would like to come for part of the day because he has such a wealth of knowledge.
Oh, he does.
What's
And
his
we
son?
do have all the tree information with all the leaves in the cases. So some of the themes we talked about last time were the lighting, forest, insects, and
Native plants.
native plants. Sorry.
Converting lawn to wildflowers.
Suzanne, what?
Maybe he'll be moved, so maybe his heart will get soft if he hears that Piney Hollow is a real possibility and that the township is looking at the plans for Malaga Lake Park. Maybe he'll get softened and he'll say, all right, I'll come.
I don't think it's a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea to bring up any of those things with Joe.
Okay.
Because it frustrates him so much that nothing happens.
But I mean, it's happening.
Well,
I
it
just-
isn't. Until it happens, I'm not going to believe it, especially
All right.
because. But anyway,
All right.
my question about this is, do we want to have like sections of the display and have signs that say night skies and native plants and insect communities and what was the fourth one?
Ticks.
That's part of insect
That's
community.
inside community.
Oh, forest.
Right.
I mean, and then those would kind of articulate the breakdown of rural character. Do we want to do that? It's not
Yeah.
that hard to make signs, easy to make signs.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea.
Okay. And then we'll have
Maybe,
to,
maybe you can find out if the town really is going to go for the Green Acres grant for Malaga Park. Because if they are, maybe they need the survey re-updated or something that you could do a community day to help.
that's true. Good point.
And the last couple of years, I've been bringing the concept plan to Malaga Lake Park for Malaga Lake Park and displaying that at Community Day to show the community what we've been trying to implement there.
Love it.
Yeah, because you all received all those surveys, right? Didn't I send them to everybody?
Mhm.
I mean, it was complicated. I had trouble reading my own files because there were 4 different versions. 2 paper ones and then 2 Survey Monkey, and I can't remember how we got them done. The Survey Monkey ones, I mean, because they would have all been online. Kevin,
Would you bring the surveys of the paper surveys to Franklin Township Day for the public to fill out?
Yeah, if they're going for it, wouldn't we?
I don't know. Maybe we had the Survey Monkey version, which was practically the same in terms of the questions. It's just that how we got the answers. I can't quite remember the process we followed, but I had all the surveys and they were all compiled, including with pretty little charts and everything. So, it's 9 years ago. I don't remember what happened yesterday, so I'm not going to remember the process for this.
A company there.
Yeah.
Well, I think that kind of depends on what the grant entails that has been applied for. Because
Well,
And that was applied to the county, not to Green Acres. So
Right. The one for Green Acres will require either redoing what Suzanne did with the survey, or them just not getting that Green Acres grant too, but they should.
Personally, my observation on the heaviest users of Malaga Lake Park are fishermen from both the shore and boats, and
people walking their dog. That's the big one.
really fishing. There was one other use.
well, when the playground was in decent shape, people would come with their children, and the nature trail is popular. People like to walk it or run it, or take their dogs on it.
Yeah, I see somebody there every time I go that's parked over there that's not a boater. So they must be using it.
And motors are not allowed in the lake, correct?
Electric only.
Electric only.
Yeah, electric.
Something should be done, in my opinion, about the parking because it's very haphazard. People park like all over the place. There's this big, wide, expansive gravel parking lot, but people still choose to park in the area like on the lawn instead of parking in the designated parking area. So maybe that's something we can bring up at some point, something that I've noticed. Because I don't understand why people choose to park on a lawn that's not meant for parking when there's the large, expansive parking area that's maintained specifically for parking.
Right. Where do they park on the lawn?
Near the nature trail and the garden and stuff.
You mean that the side to the right? You mean
Yeah. Yeah. People that use nature tend to be parking on the nature.
Right.
That's I mean, that'll increase our drainage problems. They'll compact it.
Mm-hmm.
They have so much space for parking. The whole park is filled with parking spaces for cars. And they don't feel like walking, that's all.
Right. But they're going for a walk, but they don't feel like walking.
So to kind of get back on track here about Community Day, Suzanne, have you secured our spots or tried to?
No, because I just read in the paper it gave a phone number. Usually they send something out, so I guess I'll just call up Carol Colburn. I'll do that right away tomorrow.
Okay.
Because they didn't ask, and they have asked in the past. I don't know. So I better just call her.
So I think we have most of the stuff display wise and signage wise.
Mm-hmm.
Since we're using stuff from previous years, I don't think there's much that we have to create this year.
No, just some signs and a space for the insect stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because normally we lay out all the forest tree displays on tables, and that uses up a lot of the room. Plus, we bring the plans and different things like that for people to look at if they want to. Do we want to ask anybody? One of the things we did at a community day in the past, the first years that I was on the environmental commission, we often didn't have a quorum because we didn't have enough people that actually showed up. So eventually we were seeking new members, and we did so at community day by asking people, having a little display that said, are you interested in being on the environmental commission? And it kind of gave them some options of what it meant. And we got a bunch of people, like Connie Lewak, for example, came that way, and who passed away this past year. Did you know that? I guess maybe you did.
Yeah,
But
I saw her obit.
Me too.
me too. And anyway, and some others that came that way, and we ended up never having a problem with a full commission again. And now there's always different people who haven't selected themselves to join, who don't show up, as we know from experience. But when people sign up and they're interested, we had a whole bunch of people. We had like 10 people, and we invited them all to meetings. And the ones that came back, who weren't bored out of their minds, got on the commission eventually.
Yeah, I actually did make a note about that recruitment. We should try to recruit some new members. Last year, I got a lot of people to sign up their email updates, and that's how Mindy started attending meetings. Was when I got her email from Community Day last year. So
maybe we should do that again, and just try to get emails. We can always ask people when we actually have an open seat. Well, right now, in my opinion, we have 2 alternate seats that are open, but we also have to get the township committee to appoint people that we suggest.
Right. Yes. But even if we just get people to start attending our meetings,
True. Okay, so
be a step in the right direction. So recruitment efforts, and that'll require some signage, but that's pretty easy.
Yeah. Yeah, we can.
With this, we are recording our meetings now, and it's going to go up on the township site. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's an advertisement.
Oh yeah, we
never
can.
had.
Yeah, inform the public that our meetings the videos can be seen.
Uh-huh.
And
I'm not sure that's going to bring anybody.
Right. But maybe having a sign that informs the public that our meetings can be attended virtually.
That's right.
Be productive.
Oh, that's a good idea too.
What address do you have for Bosco?
95 Malaga Lake Boulevard. Okay.
What was that?
Bill just had a question about the address of one of the applications.
Oh, okay. Right. All right. We need to do this stuff. Well, we have 2 months, I guess. So we're okay.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, that is all I have on the agenda. If anyone would like to bring anything up before we adjourn, now's the time.
No mail?
No mail. Nope. We haven't had mail in, it seems like, years. I don't know where it goes, but
We used to get stuff, yeah, a little bit more, but I don't know.
It's recycled in an environmentally friendly manner.
We,
That's nice thinking.
Yeah.
No, actually, stuff is probably coming in by way of email in many cases, and so it's partly it.
I was going to say, do you think there's any place where we can inquire to have mail sent to us to keep us informed about certain things? Are there any entities that would provide that? I mean, we get the Anjec mailers.
Does EC have a township mailbox within this building?
Yes.
We used to have like a little folder that they would give us our mail to. We don't have.
We have
little
a-
folder that they would give us our mail.
Yeah.
And the municipal building, where the staff don't we still have a box there somewhere?
No, we
Yeah.
don't, because I asked
No.
about that.
Well,
I asked about that before, because that's where, we would pick up all of our stuff. But now when I go there, or when Evan goes there to get our applications, they're really just sitting on the desk at the front. So those are the only materials that we ever collect from the municipal building.
Gee, don't they have mailboxes over there at all for other people?
Well, I mean, they do receive mail there, yes, but I guess there hasn't been anything specifically addressed to the Environmental Commission.
Oh, okay. Except
Well,
there's,
so we had mail addressed, the certified mail for the Scotland Run diversion project, and that was sent to the Environmental Commission members.
and the DEP notices also come to us.
That is digital. That the
Oh,
clerk.
that's digital. Oh, okay.
I'm
They-
talking about, what about the letter of interpretation applications? Is that digital?
We don't normally see them.
We are supposed to see them. They're addressed as us as a CC on them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and we used to get them.
No, I don't think we've seen one of them in years.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't remember them.
John, I think you need to talk to somebody, make sure that the EC has a mailbox.
Yeah.
I mean, they may have done away with it at some point in time, but there is paper mail that's still, I'm sure there is paper mail that still is addressed to EC, and it doesn't get there because of lack of a place for the secretaries or whoever is doing intake to put it.
Oh, can I bring up one thing? Kevin, perhaps you recall remember the copper burning sites that were EPA hazardous waste sites that had to be cleaned up and were? Do you remember that? Boy, do I miss Jay? Apparently,
Jay knew where everything was.
absolutely.
Before him, it was Tom Vandergrift.
I know where it is too.
Well, there apparently was one on the, at least one on the Shapani property. And in the environmental assessment, the preliminary environmental assessment, it came up in the literature. And it doesn't actually say anywhere that it's closed, that it was closed out, that it was remediated, which it was. In fact, there's a report, or maybe more than one report on the treatment that they did to those sites. But establishing that they are in fact remediated and that the cases are closed is important in order to get the Green Acres money to pay for it. Go ahead, Barbara.
I'm pretty sure I saw documents when they were trying to put the mine in, or the solar was likely the mine, that there was an environmental assessment study done on the site for that, and they included the paperwork, and it said it was approved for residential occupation. The cleanup was done enough to allow houses to be on the site. You have to look for the documents from either the mine people,
You think
probably the mine people.
Linda Green would have any of that paperwork?
I doubt it.
Because I don't remember, besides her and you, who was involved with the with the uproar a couple years ago.
Well, it came to the township, and so it should all be in township files, right?
Yeah, I'll
It,
have
it was
to
an
look.
application.
I don't know if what I put up on Green Franklin has any of that, but I don't think so. I'll have to look for you.
Well, I'll check that too. But if you think you have anything else, and I was going to look back through my files because so far Green Acres was saying do an Oprah request, not of the state but of EPA, and I thought, oh my God, that how long is that going to take, and how well is that going to go? And if we had the documents that showed that it was approved for residential, then and clearly that would solve the problem.
Well, those documents came from the New Jersey DEP, not the EPA. And I
Oh,
think
they did. Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
it was a small site, so I don't think EPA cleaned that one. I
Yeah.
think the owner may have cleaned it.
Is that the
The one
okay.
that, yeah, the only one I know that EPA did is on Marshall Mill Road near Stanton.
Okay.
is that the only holdup right now to preventing the funding from coming through from Green Acres?
Yes. It's a step in the process. Yes. And it has to be addressed. Other stuff can be going forward at the same time, but that has to be addressed.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully they have the submissions from the mine and the solar. And you could contact the engineer if town hall can't find the report on the environmental status of the site.
Well, do you think this for solar that they did that? I don't think they got that far, did they?
No, I think it was for the mine, and I believe it was. And it, like I said, it was a typical report you'd see from an environmental company, looking into
Right.
the history on the site, providing all that information. So it was pretty big.
I remember seeing like a piece of paper. One was a DEP, and it listed all the cleanup sites in Franklin Township. You could do that for every municipality in New Jersey, and it was a report whether it was active or mitigating. And the EPA had a similar one for Franklin Township, and it wasn't that extensive. You didn't have to look through hundreds of pages. It was 3 or 4 pages of the lot, the block, and whether it was, considered a cleanup site or Superfund site or hazard site,
Right.
and whether it was active or inactive or cleaned up. It would state that.
But for some reason, and I'm secondhand on this because the response that came back from the environmental assessor, maybe from I can't remember, from DEP, that the minor data, what's it called?
Data minor.
Something minor. Data minor. Sorry, was confusing or mixed up or just not very accessible, and they couldn't get an answer through that, which is, I think, what you have seen, perhaps, Kevin. We did have our own list of contaminated sites in Franklin. We still have that, but that doesn't have, it's not a document that proves that something is closed. And the documents you're talking about that were approved for the mine application would be, that would be more direct evidence. So I need to track that down. I need to work on that. Just a little too much to work on all the time. But that one is important. So, okay. Thank you for all the info.
All right.
If I don't find something, I'll call one or both of you back up.
Or just
Okay.
can't find some
Or just what?
panic.
Just panic.
Or just panic. Okay, I can do that. No, I usually just go to sleep instead so that I don't have to feel those kinds of feelings.
Good stress reliever, sleep.
Yeah,
Well, I think we're
avoidance. I'm
we're
into avoidance. But
ready for
Okay.
a motion for adjournment.
I second it.
Well, you would make it, and I'll second.
Oh, I thought you were making it.
That's okay.
Okay, I make a motion to adjourn.
Right, I'll second that. All in favor? Aye.
I
what
Adjourned
is it,
at
9:31,
9:33.
33 or 30? 33. I have to change my watch. It's
Good night, Margaret. Good night, Roger.
Good night. Good night.
okay.
Good night, Suzanne.
Oh, good night, all.
Barbara.
Good
Barbara,
night.
did you ever hear about the sale? How this what the sale of the properties went for? I was
No.
curious if they managed to sell them or they didn't, especially the big one that's on Dulcie Drive. What do we call that one? You know,
Shea Avenue.
exactly. So you didn't hear anything either, right?
No, but they're gonna have to put a resolution up to vote on the sale, and that's when we can find out more information.
Okay. I was just curious. I didn't go either because I wasn't going to buy anything, of course, but was curious how they went because they're doing the same thing. They're putting a minimum bid that is fairly high, just like they did in the last one.
Mhm.
Okay. I think good night, everybody, right?
Good
Good
night.
night. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.